Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. It is Monday, November 13th. 2023. I'm your host, Jon Jeune, and of course, I gotta have my guy here with me, Greg Pennamon. Greg, how you doing today, man?
Doing well, doing all right, man. We'll be better tonight if definitely Josh Allen can give us a typical Josh Allen performance. Number one quarterback in fantasy. Need him to get a good number tonight, and then be in first place early in one of our most important league I think I'm in, fantasy history.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you judge based off of, the reward.
Monetarily, yes.
Monetary investment put in, it is probably our most important league. However, there are a few other leagues that hold a higher place in my heart personally, because those are people that we see every day or friends that we've been around, friends that we've had for however many years. Like one of my home leagues is, I think at least 10 years running, 11, 12 years now. Our fantasy, the League of Extraordinary People, that's been running for 10 years now as well.
Yep.
And actually got a pretty important win against you in that league, like we talked about on the lead up to the week. We've got like 4 or 5 teams vying for 8th place, man, and that eighth place spot gets you in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And you were holding it down for several weeks, and now it's my turn to hold it for however long I can.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going against another high score of the week. Team didn't play badly. It's just again, like getting put up numbers, not playing enough defense apparently.
Well, we are going to talk about some of those players today as we go through the swags, obviously, and then we're going to talk about the Jags as well in our Week 10 fantasy football recap. If you're watching live on YouTube, Twitch, or X, we definitely appreciate you. Again, we did have to start late today. We're starting live show at 5 p.m. I did have some delays due to travel, so I apologize for that, but we are here. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, then the time difference probably doesn't really make a difference to you. You're probably just getting this podcast, 2 hours later than you normally would. So I apologize to you for that. But we are here ready to break down Week 10, recap the week that was thus far. As obviously Greg mentioned, we got a Monday night game tonight. So let's start with the quarterback swags. And the number one quarterback on the week, I feel like I say this every week for the last 4 weeks. But that would be Dak Prescott, man. 26 of 35, 404 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 rushing attempts for 17 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, 37.9 fantasy points on a day. He, totaled 5 total touchdowns here. Greg, I know this was against your Giants. You did call that the Dallas Cowboys could probably hit the over by themselves, which they went ahead and did. I don't know how much of this game you willingly watch, Greg, but what did you make of this performance here by Dak Prescott?
Yeah, I mean, luckily this was in the 4 o'clock window. No, going over any other game that was important. So I was able to get watch, other games that were more entertaining for sure. I mean, definitely expected the result. Love the fact that Dak now 3rd straight game with at least 300 passing yards, at least 3 passing touchdowns. Got 4 here. The only question mark was, I didn't think he needed to do all this, but he still was able to get to this high scoring numbers, which is good to see in a blowout game. Because in the first game against the Giants, they won 40-0, and Dak didn't do anything. So luckily he was able to get the numbers here as well.
Yeah, it's a great point, because when we talked about this game, we broke it down last week. I was 100% on board. I don't know how much I like Dak Prescott in this game. I don't think they need him, but it did not matter. I mean, essentially, he was only, all this fantasy production came in 2 quarters, because in the first quarter it was a 0-0 game, and there was not much action. And then the fourth quarter he was pulled. So pretty much, all this production came in the second and third quarter, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But you love to see this. Dak Prescott putting up these high numbers, getting these high passing touchdown totals, and obviously the impact that has on some of the other players on this team. Who a couple of them we'll talk about later, positively and negatively. But moving on to the QB2 on the week, Justin Herbert, 27 of 40, 323 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, also added 15 rushing yards on 4 attempts, 28.4 fantasy points on the day. Greg, your thoughts on the performance here by the Herb?
Yeah, the Herb, man, doing what he has to do in a great matchup, going back and forth in a typical Chargers game here against Detroit. It was an amazing game, one of the best games of the weekend, up there with that Cincy Texans game. But he showed out. He made typical Justin Herbert throws, vintage throws that were very good. The team came up short like usually the Chargers teams do.
No one knows how to lose one-score games like the Chargers do, man. Definitely.
Yeah, I heard today on the Pat McAfee show that the Chargers are basically the new Lions of like what the Lions used to be. This is the Chargers now. Yeah. Justin Herbert is like Matt Stafford, that new Matt Stafford.
Oh man, that is terrible. I hate that for Justin Herbert. Yeah, man. I mean, we love this from a fantasy perspective, though. This Chargers defense has been so bad, and we've talked about that all season. That it really does uplift Justin Herbert and this Chargers offense, and he's not hurting. With the loss of Mike Williams, with the loss of Joshua Palmer. I mean, maybe it hurts from like a football down to down, perspective, but from a fantasy perspective, you can't tell the difference. And Keenan Allen managers have got to be happy, which we obviously will talk about that when we get to wide receivers. But moving on to the QB3 on the week, man, Joshua Dobbs, 23 of 34, 268 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. Also added 44 rushing yards on 8 attempts and a touchdown there, 25.1 fantasy points. Joshua Dobbs, man, absolutely just balling. And a lot of his production came in those, the first half of this game. He had already had his passing touchdown and his rushing touchdown. He had, accumulated in that first half there. The New Orleans Saints did make a comeback, and they were making their way in a comeback. And this game looked like, the Minnesota Vikings were going to blow the doors off the Saints. Next thing you know, Jameis Winston has to come in relief of Derek Carr, who was injured, and we got a game. But it was interesting to see Josh Dobbs not really, continue to go further from that point there. But you got to still love the performance here for a guy who, again, his first start with this team, his second week with the team, in a matchup that on paper looked like it's not a great matchup. But again, this is why we love Josh Dobbs. This is what we said last week when we were discussing his performance and his prospects going forward into week 10 and the rest of the season, is that, hey, he's going to use his legs, and that's what we like in these quarterbacks. Greg, what'd you make of this performance here by Joshua Dobbs?
Yeah, just relaying up for everything you said. I mean, he's just been balling out, doing what he has to do. 268 passing and just providing now that floor with the legs, 2 straight rushing touchdowns. And even without the rushing touchdowns, he's still getting a good rushing number, at least over 40 in the first 2 games. So continuing to play. We mentioned both the schedule coming up too, Denver, Chicago, next 2 weeks before the bye. So he's definitely going to continue to do that. And then after that, got Vegas, Cincy, and Detroit. So Josh Dobbs could win some managers some leagues.
Oh, most definitely can help win managers some leagues. And I think I just checked. He's 52% roster. Like, get that thing up.
Yeah.
For real. Now rounding out the quarterback swags, man. Finishing at 4, we had Sam Howell. 5, Geno Smith. 6, Brock Purdy. 7, Jared Goff. 8, Joe Burrow. 9, CJ Stroud. 10, Baker Mayfield. Oh wait, I'm sorry, Greg. Your start of the week was Geno Smith with a top 5 finish.
Yes, sir. He did it.
I was like, I feel like Greg's start of the week is in here, and I'm missing it. Baker Mayfield coming in at 10. Kyler Murray, my start of the week, coming in at 11. And then Jordan Love coming in as the QB 12 on the week. Greg, your thoughts on these quarterback performances?
Yeah, happy for Geno Smith, man. I think this is like the first game he really like balled out other than week 2. But yeah, this is impressive for him, especially after the previous week against Baltimore. Brock Purdy showing that, San Fran is back and everything like that. And then, yeah, Jared Goff, man, just in that same game was dealing with Herbert, man, one of his best Detroit games as well.
Yeah, I mean, Jared Goff, we kind of anticipated that one. Brock Purdy, I loved his prospects coming in this matchup. I thought Jacksonville could have made it a game, but that didn't really come to fruition. But we talked about this one though. Like Kyle Shanahan with the whiteboard,
yeah.
3 straight losses. Like there was no way San Fran was losing this game. But yeah, love to see Geno Smith bounce back here. Your start of the week and had a tough outing last week against Baltimore, which is a tough matchup in and of its own right. So love to see Geno Smith bounce back. But Deshaun Watson,
really good second half. Really good second half. I mean, I think he was 14 for 14 in that second half. Did what he had to do, and got snuck out there with that win. That game was crazy.
So it's funny because I didn't see this game. It was just I seen like the second snap was a pick six.
Yeah, his first throw I think was a pick six. Yeah, it was a bad first half, but
I heard a stat that he like you said, he was 14 for 14, which makes sense because I heard a stat today that he started out the game 6 for 20. And I was like, wait, what?
He was just, I don't know. He had one of the secret water, whatever drink, the Space Jam drink at halftime, man. Came out a new man.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Obviously love to see CJ Stroud in here. And another, back-to-back weeks with a game-winning drive to seal a victory, and this time against Joe Burrow in the Cincinnati Bengals, which I called this game. I was shocked that I picked it this way.
You did,
when I was looking at my notes, I was like, wait, I picked Houston, and I didn't change it on the spot. I said, all right, we're going with it. Let's go. Let's ride.
I love it.
But, now there are some guys here who we have to talk about in a negative light, Greg. And so obviously, because it wasn't a great week for all the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So I will throw it out to you, Greg. Who is, one or two guys?
Trevor Lawrence for sure. I mean, he's on a lot of lineups. I mean, I'm sure he was started in 100% of lineups he's rostered in. So he lost a lot of people some weeks. Especially, in the bye weeks, you were relying on Trevor Lawrence for sure. Will Levis as well. Definitely a popular streaming option, I think. With Baker Mayfield in that same game. Baker played well, but yeah, Will Levis did not.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, that was definitely tough. He was a guy that I thought could have finished in the top 8, top 12 of guys this week. One thing that did at least scare me from playing, Trevor Lawrence in DFS was the addition of Chase Young to the San Fran defense because, you don't never really know like what that could have, San Fran had to identify something as being wrong with their defense because their defense was bad through those first, 7-8 weeks of the season.
Mm-hmm.
They go out and they trade for Chase Young. So it really kind of made me wonder, like, all right, well, how's this going to impact, the opponents going forward, right? Like, did San Fran fill a hole here? So one of the things that I think we probably just keep an eye on going forward.
And
Lamar Jackson. This is, I think, 4 weeks in a row now.
Yeah, 3 weeks in a row. Yeah. I think the Detroit game he went off, but yeah, you're right. He's underperformed for sure.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is outside of this game, like they've been winning.
Yeah.
So like, it's not like Baltimore was going to change anything, and it's not like Lamar was playing bad either, right? It's just touchdowns just aren't coming. The big passing totals aren't coming. This is the first time where he actually played bad or not play. I mean, 2 interceptions. One, the pick 6 was off a tip pass. Still had 41 rush attempts. Right. I mean, 2 weeks in a row, Cleveland completely a little off topic. 2 weeks in a row, Cleveland benefits or scores a touchdown from a pass hitting somebody in a helmet.
Yeah, that is crazy. Cleveland was down 14 too going into the fourth. Like, no way they should have came out with this game.
And Lamar even talked about it because they asked Lamar, like, what was the reason, you guys lost? And he said his first words out of his mouth was that pick 6.
Yeah, that changed the whole momentum of the game. And you were up 7, like they're driving. Yeah, and that out of nowhere. Crazy. So
crazy stuff, man. That's a 14-point swing right there. Will Levis, like you talked about. Taylor Heineke, I'm throwing on this list because I know he was a very popular streaming candidate, but I know he left the game with a hamstring injury, so who knows how he could have finished, but he was bad.
yeah. I thought Ritter was in there like because of performance, but I didn't know it was because of injury. So,
he was pretty bad, man.
Yeah, against Arizona, you would definitely expect more.
Most definitely. Anything else on the quarterback position you want to shout out, Greg, before we move on?
No.
All right, moving on to running back swags, man. And the number 1 running back on the week, Brian Robinson Jr. 8 carries, 38 rushing yards, no touchdowns. But a part of Brian Robinson's game that we have not really seen. 6 targets, 6 receptions, 119 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. And it's going to be, pretty common here. Greg, would you believe me if I told you in a super flex league I lost to a team who started Tommy DeVito?
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like I had never been, maybe I had been a part of a game like this in fantasy, but I had never really been a part of a game like this in fantasy where 1 o'clock, bro, like my team is projected like 140. Like going into the games, my team was projected like 130. His is like 100. I'm like, all right, we're good.
Yeah,
just chilling. Like, don't mess up. Like, start safe, people. Whatever. 1 o'clock hits, and most of my players are playing in that 1 o'clock window. My projections goes up to like, from 130 to like 145. Like,
oh yeah,
chilling, right? Tells me I got like an 80%, 90% chance of victory at that point. But a lot of his players were playing in the 4 o'clock window. Yeah. And one of his players was, Tommy DeVito finished as like the quarterback 14, I think it was. The quarterback 15.
Yeah, he did finish higher than Trevor Lawrence and some guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just, kind of showing the kind of week I had. Because in his running back slot, oh, would you look at that? Brian Robinson. Well, yeah, the number 1 running back on the week, 27.7 PPR points on the day. Greg, would you make this performance by Brian Robinson Jr.?
Yeah, it's like his receiving and rushing yards were like switched. Like this is crazy. Like he hasn't had a game over 4 receptions, or hasn't had a game over like 45 receiving yards. So this to come out of nowhere with the 6 for 119 is definitely surprising. But yeah, hopefully maybe this could be a sign of things to come moving forward. You can add some more receiving value to his play. Yeah,
man. We definitely did not see the usage like this from him before. I think a lot of that came, the touchdown and a lot of the 119 yards came on like one big play. It might have been over 40, 50 yard touchdown there. But definitely would like to see more of this if possible for Brian Robinson, especially when Antonio Gibson is involved as well and doing well. We'll talk about some honorable mentions, but he finished as a running back 14. And I say that in this particular spot to say that in the same matchup where I was going against Brian Robinson, he also started Antonio Gibson. So.
Brutal.
Moving on to the RB2 on the day. Jahmyr Gibbs, man, 14 carries, 77 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, added 5 targets, 3 receptions, 35 receiving yards, 26.2 PPR points on the day. This was interesting in a lot of ways. The first way I found it to be interesting was he out-touched David Montgomery here had 19 opportunities to David Montgomery's 12. So that is, definitely significant. Also significant is he converted 2 goal line touchdowns here. Jahmyr Gibbs did. So one of the places we thought David Montgomery would eat into Jahmyr Gibbs's work, even if Gibbs was more involved, was those goal line touchdowns. But those seem to go to Jahmyr Gibbs in this instance. And I don't think that they are viewing Gibbs as like the goal line back in that case. I really just see it as he had the hot hand. He was rolling that day. They didn't see it. They trust Jahmyr Gibbs to take those goal line opportunities now. They didn't see the need to take him off the field and put David Montgomery in. But I think that this is will continue to be a 2-man backfield going forward. And we'll see weeks like this where both of them finish in the top 12. But Greg, your thoughts on the performance here by Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, I think this is gonna be definitely a 2-man like top 20 backfield. Like these two are gonna produce like good numbers, at least solid RB2 numbers and higher RB1 upside because Detroit, one of the best offenses in the league. They got high pace to have, a high place to play. So they're going to get a lot of plays in. But yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs, since that Baltimore game, has just been going off as an RB1, high in RB1. And this has definitely just been, one of those rookies that you just have to be patient on. And he's now coming through for managers.
Yeah, most definitely. This is why I did not panic at the beginning of the season. If anything, I was willing to double down on Jahmyr Gibbs, mainly because, like you said, these are guys that can be 2 top 20 running backs. Coming into the season, I had them both ranked as in my top 19 of running backs. Jahmyr Gibbs slightly higher as the running back 12, David Montgomery as the running back 19. But when I look at backfields historically that this could be similar to, at the time when I was doing my projections and trying to stat out Detroit, I thought about Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram back on the Saints and during Kamara's rookie year, right? We saw Kamara get, really utilized as a receiver, did get some opportunities on the ground, but really we saw David Montgomery or, Mark Ingram at the time, that's the role David Montgomery is playing in this, really benefit from, heavy rushing attempts, mixed in a little bit of receptions, but it made a lot of his money on the goal line. I think Mark Ingram ran for like 12 touchdowns that season. So, I could see these 2 players with very similar archetypes to the ones, their counterparts in New Orleans. And I really do think that this is a formula that works for this team rest of the season going forward.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think people that drafted Bijan would have wanted Jahmyr in the same spot could just have taken Jahmyr Gibbs. Like that's how well he's playing right now.
Most definitely. I will say, because I did early in the year traded away David Montgomery, as a Jahmyr Gibbs manager, traded away David Montgomery so that I could acquire Bijan Robinson. So I do still like Bijan rest of the season. We did obviously see the touches go up this week. So, we'll see how that breaks down. But moving on to the RB3 on the week, man, Devin Singletary, 30 rush attempts, 150 rushing yards, 1 touchdown on the ground. Also added 1 reception on 2 targets for 11 receiving yards. Good for 23.1 PPR points on the day. Greg, what's your thoughts on the performance here by Devin Singletary?
Yeah, this is crazy. I think this is even crazy that he got his 31 touches and CJ Stroud still gets his as well. And those receivers, like this offense really can support a lot of pieces. And with the news that he was the sole starter, he got all the opportunity. Texans, I think coming in were one of the worst teams running the football, and then they just boom explode with this performance here. So definitely great by him for sure.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic performance here by Devin Singletary. I mean, we've been talking about it for weeks now. Go add Devin Singletary. He was available. He was, at one point the snaps were getting close to even between him and Dameon Pierce, who was being, who was largely ineffective for some time. And now Dameon Pierce rather has been injured. with what seems like an ankle sprain, and now Devin Singletary has had 2 weeks in a row. Last week in a tough matchup against Tampa Bay, which you're like, okay, that makes sense. And this week, it kind of reminded me, Greg, because I was getting ready to make some DFS lineups, and Devin Singletary was just kind of sticking out because he was in a place on DraftKings where his salary was really low, and I was like, but he didn't do anything last week. And then I immediately thought about our rule, Greg.
Not the first week.
Not the first week. At backup running back, everybody wants them that first week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Everybody's like, oh yeah, they're gonna get all this opportunity to do all these touches, and then they crap out. And then the next week, nobody wants them.
Nope. Nope.
And here we are.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. We should do a study on this, man. I really don't know.
It's got to be, yeah. There's definitely something.
Got to be something, man. Like,
yeah.
Like maybe they're not like comfortable, or they're like, they got to get all the practice reps. I don't know what it is, man.
Yeah, I have no idea either. Either that or they, don't they don't hear the chatter from the first week that they're like, oh, play this man. And the second week they're like, oh, fade him. And I'm like, all right, yeah, perfect.
Oh, all right, man. Rounding out the running back swags, man. The running back 4 in the week, Austin Eckler, who was on my team on the League of Extraordinary People, but also on my opponent's team who had Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson. So pain. Christian McCaffrey, RB5, Kenneth Walker coming in at 6, Jaylen Warren 7, Najee Harris 8, Alvin Kamara coming in at 9, Rachaad White coming in at 10.
Love it.
David Montgomery tying with Bijan Robinson for that 11 spot. So, Greg, I kick it to you. Any of these running back swags or any honorable mentions that you want to throw out there that stuck out to you this week?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great week for running backs. Dante Foreman too had a great performance on Thursday night. Typical week for him as a starter for the Bears in a good matchup. Austin Eckler, I mean, since we called him out, I was like, that Chicago was that get right game. He's really come through in the last 3 weeks. So he's definitely back to that spot, those number 1 overall pick level that you expected him to be. And then it's moment of silence. The Christian McCaffrey touchdown streak is over. Word.
Yeah. I tried to take that moment of silence, man, because at one
they
point
tried to get it to him too. They were actually trying to get. He had 3 straight, I think, touches at the goal line in one drive. Shanahan knew it was the record week as well. I think it would have been 18. So set a NFL record. So yeah, or tied it, one of the two.
Yeah, man, that was tough to see that streak end. It's like one of this. Like, honestly, of all the things that happened this weekend, I think it was probably one of the saddest things. In the Christian McCaffrey streak ended. Like, that's crazy. Especially because I used it to anchor some parlays. So that was also crazy.
I mean, as you should have. He was a lock. He was a lock. A full year of making people money. A full year. Full NFL season of games.
Oh man, that's crazy. Yeah, it was good to see Kenneth Walker bounce back with a bounce back game here. Both Steelers running backs. I mean, Jaylen Warren, just every time he touches the ball, man.
Man. So efficient, man. He's so efficient.
You think that the Steelers would still spend a first-round pick on Najee if they knew they were getting Jaylen Warren as an undrafted free agent?
No, I mean, they probably would have used. I mean, I don't know what quarterbacks were on the board at the time, but it's not. They literally have they're 6-3. They have every other piece besides Kenny Pickett right now, and they're winning games. So,
oh man, crazy. I'm not a golf person, so other than the clubs that I have right in the back of my car, I don't have, I'm not really a huge golf fan, so I didn't recognize who the other person was, but it was just really funny. There was this meme where it was like, oh, the Dolphins 6-3, and it was like Tiger Woods, and it was like the Pittsburgh Steelers 6-3, and it was just like this older guy with like a beer belly and a cigar.
That's probably John Daly. That's definitely John Daly, yo. That man is a legend on the golf course, yo. Oh man.
Yeah, man, absolutely funny. But Bijan Robinson, I'm gonna take it back to that one, man, because we talked about it in the lead up to this game, and we were down on Bijan, I think, going into the week, mainly because of what had been transpiring, not just the week before, but all season.
First game with 20 carries. First game with over 20 carries.
Crazy. Yeah, he had 22 in this one. Also added 2 targets. Had a red zone carry, which converted into a touchdown. I don't know. It's almost like Anthony, or what's his name, Arthur Smith has been listening. Almost.
We got the bye week is here now. Sad that the bye week's here. I think it's kind of like, hopefully he doesn't cut off that momentum.
Hey, man, rookie's after the bye.
I know. I hope it's not reversed for this case, because they got.
I gave it to him too much.
Yeah.
But one of the things I had said on the air was can't wait until James Conner comes out of his IR spot so I can put him in my lineup over Bijan. Because I was like, I feel like you got to treat Bijan as an RB3. And as you know, Greg, I did not do that. I did not do that, because as we got closer to the week, I'm sitting there and I'm like, James Conner
has to look at. Yeah,
it was tough. It was a tough decision. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like it was an easy decision to make. But James Conner hadn't had a full practice yet.
Yeah.
And like, even as we got to Friday, he still didn't have a full practice. So I was like, okay, well, maybe there's a chance like they don't activate him, but then they did. But then you hear all this talk, and then there's these reports coming out. Oh, the Falcons plan to use Bijan Robinson more in the red zone, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And I saw Deontay Foreman had put up a 17 spot for you. Indianapolis defense, my defensive stream of the week, who you picked up after dropping New England, and I was sitting here trying to figure out if I could get a roster spot so I could pick them up and play some defense against you for the defense. That also, you picked them up. They 25 points in our league. So I'm like, well, damn. Like, what do I need? Do I need like 12 points from James Conner? Or do I need the potential that Bijan Robinson gets me 20? So I went with Bijan. He got me 17. So I took it.
Tough. That means basically I called you to make your decision. That's what you're saying.
Yes. I mean, it was a lot of factors, but your score being as high as it was before we even got to a 1:00 game.
Yeah. It was looking good. It was looking real good.
Like, that was bad, man. I mean, because I was projected to win by like 10, 15 points. Deontay Foreman plays, cushion drops to like 5 points.
Yeah. Yep.
Then the Indianapolis game kicks off. I'm watching Mac Jones like throw interceptions. Bailey like takes sacks. I'm like, yo, what is going on? And then the projection was dead even. Yeah. It was like dead even, or you were supposed to win by like a point or 2 points. And I was like, nah, man, like I can't go out like this, So whew, crazy stuff how that happens. Keaton Mitchell, I thought, stood out. Like, again, you talked about it as well. You brought up the Devon Achane comparison. I think it sticks, man. Like, honestly, his first carry was like a 39-yard.
It was a great run too. Bounced outside, outran the entire defense. Like, he's really fast. Like, yeah.
Most definitely.
Give him the ball more. Yeah, it'll continue to go up.
Yeah. And then Ty Chandler. He's another one, scored 10.5 PPR points. Got in the end zone. He was getting involved. I mean, he was a guy we talked about last week after the Cam Akers injury, because he was getting involved, early in this game, and he looks good, man. He's got some juice.
Yeah,
like he's got some serious juice. He can boogie, and then we get the Alexander Madison injury at some point in like the third or fourth quarter, and he's going in concussion protocol. So you could have Ty Chandler being a potential, spot start in week 11 here against Denver. So, definitely somebody to pay attention to. We talked about him last week, but you definitely want to make sure you get him. And then Antonio Gibson, I've been saying it all week, for weeks now, like he should be rostered. Like, I get the frustration but the role he could play, the opportunities he could have, if something happens to Brian Robinson, he needs to be rostered, and he's been coming through these last few weeks. The situation I'm curious to see how it unfolds is the D'Onta Foreman situation, because like you talked about, he's been playing well, especially when he gets these opportunities. Could have even had probably a bigger game last week, on Thursday Night Football, but he had to leave with an injury, was got dinged up in that first half. But what do you think D'Onta Foreman's role is if and when Khalil Herbert makes his return back to the lineup?
Yeah, it is tough. I mean, Khalil Herbert definitely can catch passes, so that will have him on the field, I think, a little more too. Like when D'Onta Foreman's on the field, the Bears are probably going to run the ball. I think Khalil Herbert does open up the offense a little bit more, but so I think they'll be in a kind of almost even backfield, but Khalil Herbert maybe like 60-40, I think. But I think near the goal line, D'Onta Foreman will be getting the ball, so that definitely keeps his value there a little bit, at least an RB3 value.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? Because I think a couple weeks ago I answered this question, and I'm like, well, it's going to be like a headache because you're going to get Khalil Herbert come back, and then Justin Fields is going to come back, and this whole thing is going to be a mess. And like, I don't really want part of that anyway. But like, then you see them like actually throwing the football to D'Onta Foreman, and I'm not talking about like screens. Like he's getting out on routes, like catching the football. Had 2 targets in this game. Whereas, a lot of times you see that stat line in the box score is a 0. So to me, it's almost as if they're trying to give D'Onta Foreman more opportunities to really take hold of this, because he's been playing really well. And how obviously coaches, we see this with Dave Montgomery in Detroit, right? Like we from like a fantasy perspective, we care about efficiency and touches and what people are doing on a per touch basis. Like Chicago doesn't care that D'Onta Foreman ran for 3.8 yards a carry. They care that he ran the ball 21 times, and every 21 times he fell forward and he leaned his body on somebody.
Yep. And that's by the fourth quarter, you're tired. The defenses get wearing down. Yeah.
So that's what these coaches care about. And so I see, and again, we play a game of probability, right? Like, we could say like, oh, I think this is going to happen, but we also have to be prepared for the other possibilities that could happen. And to me, I think there's a world where Foreman can hold on to this job and be the lead guy here.
Yeah, I agree with that. He's earned that for sure. And yeah, I definitely at least under 20 under red zone, I'm giving him the ball. He needs to be in the backfield for me. He's too powerful of a back. He finishes his runs well. So yeah, he'll definitely have touchdown value too.
Yeah, most definitely. So, like if anything, I'm selling high on Foreman, but your league mates probably are anticipating Khalil Herbert coming back. So might be a tough sell, but if you can, get to a running back needy team and try to pitch them a D'Onta Foreman, I think it's worth the shot. But curious to see how it plays out. Moving on to some running back Jags, man, and there's quite a few guys in here. Saquon Barkley, that one's just kind of tough. I mean, he has been. I did have some concerns going into this game with him, but like you had pointed out, and we had looked at previous matchups. He had done well in some of these similar spots here, but 66. I think he had 66 rushing yards.
Yeah,
had negative. Had negative receiving yards. I mean, it got to a point where the Giants were still trying to like score points and like I like kicking field goals when you're down 40 points. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like this isn't college. You don't get like we only lost by 35. Like, what are we doing? But anyways, besides the point, like it was clear that the Giants were still trying to run their offense, but Saquon Barkley was not on the field.
No, I mean, no point in maybe risking injury in a meaningless game. I think at this point, it's this offense is pathetic, man. It's tough.
Like they were calling timeouts with like 19 seconds left in the game because they were trying to score like feel good touchdowns.
Well, they got Washington next week, so things might be on the up at least. They beat them a couple weeks ago.
Well, from one running back on a bad New York team to another. Breece Hall. Your running back start of the week. Had a down game. Again, this offense is allergic to the end zone. Had a touchdown called back.
Bro, the amount of penalties in that game was crazy. The amount of penalties that for positive plays, like you can't even say this one was on Zach. Like those penalties were killers in every drive. It seemed like
every drive, honestly, every drive. But Breece Hall again.
Touchdown. I think he scored. Got in.
He scored. He got in. They called it back for a holding penalty.
Yep.
And then that turned, getting a touchdown into settling for a field goal, because that's what happens when the Jets get in the red zone.
Greg the leg, baby. Greg the leg. Kicker props though.
Yeah. My running back start of the week, Ramondre Stevenson, also, did not have. I honestly don't even know, man, because he looked good, had a decent game, just doesn't get in the end zone, had 88 rushing yards, I think. Did even leave the game at some point with a back injury, had to come back in. Josh Jacobs, solid game overall, but, could have been better.
Derrick Henry was pretty bad.
Yeah, I think I saw 3 points for Derrick Henry in the PPR league.
Yep.
Not great. But that whole offense, again, we could talk about that one.
Yeah.
We talked about Will Levis at the top, but that whole offense was just absolutely terrible. Aaron Jones, thought it could have been a bigger day for him against Pittsburgh. Are you concerned with Aaron Jones at this point, Greg?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you would think he may be the saving grace for this Packers offense that has been pretty bad all year, especially with the usage he got last week. He had really good usage, played well, but it's been too consistent for him to be in RB2 category right now. I think he's kind of been in that, just floating in that RB3 area now because of the consistency.
Yeah, and I hate making statements like this at this point in the season, because, I mean, granted, we are more than halfway through, going into week 11. But Aaron Jones has been banged up with the hamstring, so I'm not questioning whether he's still got it or he's got the talent level or anything. It just makes me wonder, because when the reports were coming out, the Jonathan Taylor contract stuff was coming out. The team that kept coming up outside of Miami was Green Bay. And it kept making me wonder, why? Why is Green Bay so in on Jonathan Taylor? And I'm wondering, did they see a decline in Aaron Jones? Because, I don't, again, I'm not saying anything definitively. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Right.
Does it get better for Aaron Jones from here? So something to keep in mind.
Yeah, it doesn't help. The Packers just are not a very good offense either. And Travis Etienne too. That was his touchdown streak ended. He had a little one going on there too.
Yeah,
4 games up.
Not a great game for him either. James Conner, first game back from injury. Not a great game. It's kind of weird. He's still wearing a brace on the knee. I don't think he's fully right.
Maybe Arizona trying to win some games. I'm here for it. Giants in the number 2 spot now. Oh man, it's look. I think we're in the number 2 spot, number 3 maybe, because we beat Arizona, so we need them to win one more.
Yeah, y'all are in the 2 spot right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I saw that tweet, and some Giants fans was like, "Ooh, Drake May or Caleb Williams, here we come."
I don't want this conversation, man. Caleb Williams, don't even think about it. No hesitation.
Well, if Caleb goes 1, you don't really have a choice.
No, I need Marvin Harrison to go 1. There's no reason. I mean, I'm just hoping that the Bears believe in Fields, or the Cardinals believe in Kyler Murray, or and the Panthers. Oh, the Panthers don't have it. It's Bears or Arizona, really. And
there's also the fact that the Bears could then turn around and sell it to the highest bidder, who
again.
So I don't want you to get your hopes up, I'm just, we'll see, Greg. We'll see. And plus, I mean,
I have to give up the house to move up 1 for Carolina, move up 2 spots. I could imagine what it would be just to move up one spot, or just to get.
Maybe that's what you do. Maybe you
go up that 1 spot. Go get him. Go get him, yo.
And then the Bears could still take Marvin Harrison. So We shall see. But speaking of Marvin Harrison, we'll probably be talking about him in this segment at some point next year. Wide receiver swags.
Absolutely.
The number one wide receiver on the week, Keenan Allen, in and out of the lineup with shoulder injury, but doesn't matter. 14 targets, 11 receptions, 175 receiving yards, 2 touchdown receptions. Greg, what'd you make of this performance here by Keenan Allen?
Yeah, man, another big time day for Keenan Allen. I mean, when he goes off, he can really get these monster numbers here. And Justin Herbert had a great day. The Chargers offense was rolling, so he's going to be the pivotal point in that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you hope that he can keep up with and stay healthy.
Yeah,
because his running mates have been injured thus far, and so you just hope that he can maintain his health throughout the season. But otherwise, he's been balling. I didn't even read. Did I read the 40.5 PPR points? Did I read that part?
14 targets, man. Yeah, no, I mean, like Tyreek Hill, AJ Brown, like Jamar Chase, man, maybe Keenan Allen. Like he's just been that good this year.
No, most definitely, man. I mean, like I said, while he was my sleeper wide receiver, it just didn't make sense that he was going where he was going, like in the 20s of wide receivers. Like this is a wide receiver one, like easily fall into a wide receiver one type day or year. So definitely love that. Wide receiver 2 on the week, man. I mean, Richard Sherman should just talk crap about more players, honestly, because CeeDee Lamb, 14 targets, 11 receptions, 151 receiving yards, 1 touchdown reception. Also added 1 rush attempt for 14 yards and a rushing touchdown. Good for 39.5 PPR points on the day. CeeDee Lamb is the only player in NFL history with, I believe it's 4 straight games.
Well, 3 with at least 150, which is crazy.
But I think it's
4 with at least 100.
Yeah, third consecutive game with at least 10 catches and 150 receiving yards. The only player in NFL history to do that.
Yeah, I thought the AJ Brown run was crazy, and yeah, this run is also insane. NFC East wide receivers, man, getting it done. Not on the Giants though, of course.
No. But yeah, man, CeeDee Lamb absolutely balling. Obviously, people know how we feel about CeeDee on this pod, so don't need to, wax poetically. But he's being hyper targeted right now, which I think is a fantastic thing for the not just CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott and fantasy managers, but the Dallas Cowboys offense looks a lot better.
Going back to what they throw that thing.
Maybe they need to apologize to Kevin.
Absolutely, apologies is deserved. He deserves an apology for sure.
Absolutely absurd, man.
He's the reason Tony Pollard was overdrafted. Seems like over 80 ADP now. Like that's why Mike McCarthy, man, lying to the people.
Crazy stuff, just straight crazy, man. Absolutely crazy. Moving on to the wide receiver 3 on the week, also a Dallas Cowboy. Probably like a season's worth of production in this one game here for him. Brandon Cooks, 10 targets, 9 receptions, 173 receiving yards. Also added a touchdown reception. That was good for 32.3 PPR points on the day. Greg, your thoughts on the performance here by Brandon Cooks?
Yeah, you're right. I just counted. He had 165 receiving yards coming into the day, and he got 173 in this game. So, man, balled out, did what he had to do. He was kind of getting more rapport with Dak Prescott. I'm glad that he got this breakout performance here. I'm just hoping that this is the turn now. He can kind of be a relevant, at least wide receiver 3 conversation. We can try to get him in there, hopefully, for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's really funny that you were looking that up because I was
I'm like trying to
look it up. Yeah. Looking it up at the same time. Did have 2 touchdowns coming into the game, so that's at least good that he was able to do that. But yeah, man, I mean the yardage total is definitely true. If this is a thing that keeps going, I'm on board because I liked Brandon Cooks coming into the year.
Absolutely,
as potentially being that number 2 receiver in this offense. Obviously, it was very run heavy, very slow pace to start, but now they're throwing the ball a lot more. CeeDee Lamb is absolutely balling, which then takes defensive attention away from other areas of the field, which, opens up some more opportunities for one-on-one opportunities here for Brandon Cooks and potentially Michael Gallup as well. So definitely good to see this performance here by Brandon Cooks.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the rest of the wide receiver swags. Number 4, Amon-Ra St. Brown. 5, we had Mike Evans. 6, Noah Brown. 7, Jamar Chase. 8, we had Greg start of the week, Tyler Lockett. At 10, we had Tyler Boyd. At 11, I'm going to give myself a little mini pat on the back for this one. Jaden Reed. And the wide receiver 12, Tank Dell, man. Greg, any of these performances that stuck out to you positively?
Yeah, great performances here. Tyler Lockett being in here. Mike Evans doing what he has to do. But, yeah, Noah Brown, man. Every time there's an injury, one of those 3 are out. If Robert Woods, it's just a inner cycle. Like Robert Woods, Nico, Tank Dell, and Noah Brown, man. Whoever's out, the other 3 are going to eat. So it's crazy.
I mean, I feel like Noah Brown has to earn a spot here in the offense.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah,
like he's balling, and it's like when you watch
Schultz too. Like it's crazy. They really could support 5 people, and the Singletary in the background. Like, whew.
Absolutely crazy, man. Noah Brown's been balling, and he's a lot of his stuff is coming in yards after catch, like running through contact. So love that. Jamar Chase. People thought he was going to be potentially a decoy, not healthy because of the back.
Mm-hmm.
No problem. Chris Olave. All he needed was a little Jameis Winston in his life, and right back to life. I mean, best game of the season.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely, best game of the season. Yeah,
6 receptions, 94 yards, and a touchdown, 21.4 PPR points. That's fantastic performance here. Jaden Reed. I mean, I kept saying, I was like, I have a feeling about this one. I don't know why. I just feel like it's a good Jaden Reed week, man. And he came through 5 for 5, 84 yards and a touchdown here, 19.4 PPR points. So if you had to take the shot on him, glad it came through for you.
Yeah, I mean, you know why? It's because every week is a bad Christian Watson week. That's why. It's crazy.
Michael Pittman Jr., my start of the week, coming in at 15. I mean, 16.4 PPR points. That was still a very solid day. I still think he scored a touchdown on that first possession there, where Jonathan Taylor ended up getting in. It was the only touchdown of the day.
The week where Debo, Ayuk, and Kittle all ate. So that's definitely a good sign there too.
Fantastic sign there. And Christian McCaffrey ate as well too. So.
Yeah, true. Yep.
Good stuff. Garrett Wilson, man. I mean, I'm amazed every time.
Every time. This man is he's getting rocked too in some of these throws, like in the middle of the field. He hangs on to these balls, and yeah, he's just doing an amazing job this year, given the situation.
It's like I watched the game as a Jet fan, and I'm like, there's all these emotions going through it, and watching Zach Wilson. I mean, he did not play. It was not his worst game.
No, it wasn't.
There were some plays I'm like, damn it, Zach Wilson. But there are other plays where it's like, okay, he's doing what he can. But like, I'll look up, and you look up at some point, like the third or fourth quarter, and you realize that Garrett Wilson has like 7 catches for like 80 something yards, and you're like, what? Like how?
Third straight game with at least 12 targets. Like if they're throwing it, it's throwing it to him. And Tyler Cochran now has come on a little bit too. But yeah, no, it's just funny every time I think of that like the Zach Wilson, the throw, like it was just that throw, like when you were saying it was so good. And then next drive, he just pivotal mistake. It was classic Zach Wilson game.
Oh man, yeah. Hey, at least we have nice throws to look at every now and then for Zach Wilson, but not a whole game. We'll never
not a whole game. No.
All right. Anything else you want to positively point out for wide receivers? DK Metcalf had a nice game too.
Yeah.
Demario Davis.
Yeah, Demario Davis actually. Demario Douglas. Yeah, definitely. Love that performance here from him. He's getting a lot of targets lately. That's good.
Most definitely. Moving on to the wide receiver Jags. And we got quite a few of them. I also had a feeling this week. My feelings were 50-50 because I had a feeling about Jaden Reed. But I also had a feeling about Calvin Ridley. And that one did not really come to fruition there.
Yeah, he was in a good spot. He was definitely in a good spot.
Yeah, most definitely. Terry McLaurin.
Yep.
Yeah, like kind of a faceplant game. Drake London as well.
Yep.
Marquise Brown. I mean, yeah, that's tough because there was also like they had just missed on a touchdown there between Kyler and Marquise. So, tough break there. But I think he, obviously going forward, will have some better matchups and ones that you could take advantage of. And I wrote down Nick Westbrook-Akine here. I don't know how many people actually really started him.
I'll give you Dante Johnson, definitely.
Oh yeah. I mean,
but yeah, it was a tough week.
It was a tough week. I had a lot of Nick Westbrook-Akine like receiving props. So I guess that's where
Well, at least D-Hop, yeah.
What did he do?
Not exactly. He's also a Jag as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's funny. I wrote down Nick Westbrook-Akine before,
and not D-Hop. I know, right?
Personal pain, man. It was just personal. Anybody else you want to shout out? Adam Thielen as well. I mean, there's like 2 bad games in a row now for him.
Yeah, definitely.
Are you concerned there?
I'm concerned only because it is Carolina. This could be a thing. Just Bryce has been struggling all year. And there'll be games where he's not gonna be able to get it to Thielen, and maybe bad matchups or just in general because they're just a bad team.
Yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. All right, moving on to the tight end position. Starting with these tight end swags, man. TJ Hawkinson coming in as the number 1 tight end on the week. 15 targets, 11 receptions, 134 receiving yards, and a touchdown there. 30.4 PPR points on the day. Should have known, man. Josh Dobbs goes to Minnesota. Those tight end targets go with them. Greg, what did you make of these this performance here by TJ Hawkinson?
Yeah, man. Excellent day. Excellent half, really. I was kind of a little disappointed that he didn't get like an nuclear day, but it seems like that happens in a lot of sports. Like players would just go off in the first half and then only have like 2 points in the second half. Like it happens in basketball all the time too. It's crazy. But Hawkinson killed. I love it here. I mean, he's just continuing his amazing season. I mean, he's gonna challenge for that number 1 tight end spot at the end of the year.
Yeah, most definitely will challenge for that spot. Has a bye week coming up in week 13. So, definitely something to keep in mind going forward. But, we'll definitely be challenging for that number 1 spot here, especially with Josh Dobbs in town.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was Kirk, I thought he got hurt. I'm like, oh, there goes TJ's season as well a little bit. Or at least his cap, his upside, but it hasn't dropped at all.
Most definitely. Any concern for his upside when Justin Jefferson makes his way back?
No concern.
Let's move on to the number 2 tight end on the day, Trey McBride. 9 targets, 8 receptions, 131 receiving yards, 21.1 PPR points on the day. Trey McBride, absolute fantastic performance here. Josh Dobbs left. Kyler Murray comes in. He said, hey, that Trey McBride guy has been doing pretty well. Let me continue to feed him the ball. Really funny out of this, Trey McBride with a little, confidence as well. Basically they asked him about, had a big catch at the end of the game and had asked him about it. And he said, yeah, I never really do this, but I went up to Kyler during the game and I said, hey, if this guy's on me man to man, just give me a chance because I've been cooking him all game. I was like, okay, Trey McBride. Okay, talk a little nasty. I like it. Greg, what'd you make of this performance here by Trey McBride?
Yeah, I mean, just a guy we've loved coming in to the season. Like, glad that he's taken this mantle kind of after the Zach Ertz injury. Had that really good week. Had an off week last week when people were kind of on him, but he's back. I think especially now with Kyler Murray being there, he saw the playbook and saw that they throw so many times to the tight end. So he was like, all right, man, I'm going to keep it going here. So I'm glad that, they're doing what I have to do.
Yeah, most definitely, man. Trey McBride absolutely balling. Gotta love that. The number 3 tight end on the week, George Kittle, 4 targets, 3 receptions. Oh man, this is like a classic George Kittle game. 4 targets, 3 receptions, 116 receiving yards, and a touchdown. 20.6 PPR points on the day. This is one of those George Kittle games that should have finished with 4 points.
It's close. Yeah.
He had 116 receiving yards on 3 receptions, and one of those was a 66-yard touchdown. Like, he should have finished with like 5 points.
George Kittle, man, that big play, that's in his game. That's in his game.
Most definitely. And that's why his range is 4 to 40.
Yep.
But what else did you make of this performance here by George Kittle, Greg?
Definitely a good day. Showing some consistency a little bit, 3rd straight game in double digits, so that's good. Hopefully now they continue to show this consistency here. I think San Francisco is back as a team. I still want to see more games with all of them healthy, and who's gonna kind of be the top dog in this offense, or is it just week to week? They just someone's turn next week, and someone else's turn yet possible after that.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see how this one continues going forward with all the pieces healthy, but not obviously you're not benching George Kittle, so
no,
that.
No.
Rounding out these tight end swags, man. The tight end 4 on the day, Tyler Conklin. 5, Greg's boy Jake.
He's here, yo. He's here.
The crazy part? I'm still not convinced.
Oh man, yo.
He's
your new like TJ Hawkinson. Minnesota TJ Hawkinson. Yeah.
The Detroit TJ Hawkinson.
Right? Sorry, the Detroit TJ Hawkinson. Yeah.
That's him. But like nowhere near as talented. The tight end 6, David Njoku. Tight end 7, Dalton Schultz. At 8, we have Michael Mayer. 9, we have Brock Wright. 10, we have Cole Kmet. At 11, we have Tanner Hudson. And as the tight end 12, we have Logan Thomas. Greg, did any of these tight end performances stick out to you positively?
Tyler Conklin, I think last 2 weeks he showed out. He's got at least 6 receptions, at least 60 receiving yards, so that's good. Showing some good consistency there. Good floor. Dalton Schultz continuing to show he's relevant in this offense as well. And Michael Mayer, glad he got back in here as well.
Yeah, man, Michael Mayer. 5 targets, 3 receptions, 19 yards, and a touchdown. Sounds like a good enough guy to be the touchdown or not tight end of the week.
Good lead in. Good segue. There you go.
Yeah. As the people would say, I'm a professional. But I think I bent the rules a little bit here because Michael Mayer scored a touchdown, 19 receiving yards, three catches. But Brock Wright scored a touchdown, 23 receiving yards, and 2 catches. So technically, if you take the touchdown away, Michael Mayer is still the higher scoring tight end. But Michael Mayer's touchdown, you could argue, was worth significantly more because it was the only touchdown in the game that he played in.
Yeah, pretty important. Very important.
Very important. So Michael Mayer is our touchdown or not tight end of the week.
Nice.
Hopefully we can get more consistency from Michael Mayer because I do like the prospect, like the player. So would love to see, that come to fruition.
Absolutely.
But moving on to some tight end Jags, man, and there are quite a few of them. Starting with my start of the week, Sam Laporta. Only 8 PPR points. Did get a touchdown go to a tight end on his team that wasn't him. So
yeah, I was like, let's go, Sam Laporta, and I saw Brock Wright. I'm like, oh, great, classic vulture.
Oh man, and Mark Andrews again he was probably the guy we were least concerned with going into that matchup against Cleveland, because we figured he would kind of get his no matter what. But hey, you know what? Cleveland made a concerted effort to make sure he was not the biggest factor in this game for the Baltimore Ravens there. And then I guess Taysom Hill kind of belongs in this too, because it was first dud day, and I'm pretty sure after two performances like the ones he's had, he was in starting lineups this week.
Oh yeah, he was absolutely in starting lineups this week. Just the stretch he was having being used definitely let some people down. And Evan Ingram, I think, would be the last one. Yeah.
Yep, definitely forgot about him. All right, well, let's move on to some of the news and injuries before we hit the waivers. And as far as we have injuries, Minnesota running back Alexander Madison suffered a concussion, and his status for Week 11 is in doubt. New Orleans quarterback Derek Carr is questionable for Week 12, as New Orleans is hopeful that he can get healthy during their bye week in Week 11, as he's dealing with a shoulder and a concussion. And then Atlanta quarterback Taylor Heineke, he exited Sunday's game with a hamstring injury, so something to watch. They're on bye this week, so we'll see if Desmond Ridder is a starter coming out of the bye, or if they go back to Heineke, who was largely ineffective prior to the injury, and flat out wasn't very good the week before either. So definitely a decision that Arthur Smith will have to make. So we'll see. The LA Chargers wide receiver Keenan Allen, he was in and out of the lineup, as we talked about, with the shoulder injury, so something to monitor there. And then lastly, New Orleans wide receiver Michael Thomas exited Sunday's game with a knee injury, which Ian Rappaport, I believe, reported that the Saints believe it to be fairly significant. So not exactly sure, have not seen anything there from any injury analysts out there, but as soon as we hear something, we will definitely let y'all know. But Greg, who we looking at?
Messing with those construction workers, man. Messing with your knees, yo. Crazy.
Oh man, little allusion to some off-field issues that Michael Thomas had, which involved a baseball bat and the car window of some folks that were doing some work on his street. Anyway, Greg, quarterback position, who we targeting this week?
I just wanted to highlight both Josh Dobbs and Baker Mayfield. They're right on that 53% for Dobbs, 52% for Baker, but both have been playing very solid. And in the last couple of weeks, Baker, at least I think second straight game with at least 250 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. It's got San Fran next week, maybe a little tough, but after that has Indy, Carolina, and Atlanta. And then we already talked about Josh Dobbs' schedule coming up is very favorable. So those two guys' percentages needs to be up, especially if you're in the need of a quarterback. And then under 50%, I think the only guy I'm looking at is Russell Wilson for next week. You could add him right now if you had a roster spot, if you're maybe for preparations for next week. But they have Minnesota in that same game against Josh Dobbs. That could be a sneaky, shootout potential. Could have some back and forth to it. So Russell Wilson, who has been playing solid this year, should be a name for streaming.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to get to the bye weeks for this upcoming week.
I think week 12 is the only other week that's free. Like there's none. Like week 8 and week 12.
Week 11, we have the Atlanta
11.
Falcons. We have the Indianapolis Colts, the New England Patriots, and the New Orleans Saints. So not many quarterbacks out of that bunch, I think.
Yeah.
We're depending on, but definitely want to, make some preparations if maybe you guys, you have a guy in a tough matchup, or maybe want to play some defense.
Yeah, no, I think Josh Dobbs and Baker are going to be situations where you're going to start them over some guys next week that you usually are set and forget guys that you got to play how the matchup's at this point and how people are playing.
Definitely. What about the running back position this week, Greg? What do we got?
Yeah, Devin Singletary is right at 50%, so he's right in here. He needs to be, the top option. Guys need to definitely roster him. 31 total touches on one of the top offenses in the league, I think, in my opinion, going forward. And just I think they see that teams are, thinking that they can't run the ball. I think they're going to start continuing to use that Devin Singletary in a good way, especially even if Dameon Pierce is healthy. Devin Singletary has earned the lead role in this offense. After that, Antonio Gibson, 52% rostered. Also, and that needs to be, I think, rostered a little bit more, like you were saying, having more of a defined role, especially on that receiving end. Under 50% guys, Keaton Mitchell, 47%. Big play activity. Usage is still going to be there. I think he's going to get close to 5 to 10 touches a game. But those, one of those plays could be a 40-yard, 50-yard touchdown, or even the 30-yard touchdown he had on Sunday. Ty Chandler, he's 8% rostered. With the Alexander Madison injury, this could have a lot of upside in his play. He looks good when he's in, and Josh Dobbs is there. I think this offense kind of still is continuing to roll and have some success here. And then the two guys mentioned it all year, Zach Charbonnet and Tyjae Spears, both who got around 10 touches on Sunday, 45% rostered and 40% for Tyjae Spears. Again, if injuries to the one guys, they are potential RB1 values, and just in general, just providing some depth for people that may have some injuries there, or can't trust in bye weeks.
Yeah, I will also say, and this is going to sound crazy, but Dameon Pierce has been so bad that he's been dropped in a lot of leagues. I think the last I checked, I saw him in the 70s% roster. So that means he's available in like 30% of leagues, and it's probably even, right now he's at 77%. And I promise you he will be dropped after this week, especially with Devin Singletary's performance. I would still roster him if you could bear the roster spot. If you need running back depth, like I would roster Dameon Pierce.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Yeah,
very similar for the same reasons we talked about with Antonio Gibson, right? Like this NFL ebbs and flows, especially NFL backfields tend to ebb and flow a lot too. So, be prepared for the likelihood that Dameon Pierce could get a roll back in this offense one way or the other.
Yeah.
What about wide receiver, Greg? What do you got this week?
Wide receiver, my top guy, Demario Douglas, 36% rostered. Since becoming that lead guy in week 8, I think mid-game, he's had 23 total targets, averaging around 54 receiving yards since week 7, with the season high 84 on Sunday morning in Germany. So yeah, he's definitely been playing well and showing some a consistent floor, especially on this offense. If he's playing well, I think that is definitely real, no matter what quarterback is behind there. Noah Brown, 25% rostered. Definitely, I think he's got to have a role going forward. I mean, at least maybe not put on the monster numbers he's put up the last 2 weeks, unless he's the starter. There's an injury to maybe Nico. I think obviously that bumps him up. But even when everyone's healthy, I think he still has going to have a role. Quentin Johnston finally got it in the end zone. You can see his usage going up a little bit more. Not as much targets he would still like, especially with the high scoring day. But he's another stash option, I think, that should be monitored. And then Jaden Reed and both Elijah Moore. I think both these guys are kind of relying on their quarterback play as they get better, specifically Elijah Moore, because Deshaun Watson's starting to play a little bit better, especially in the last couple of weeks. He's 42% rostered. I think he can definitely have a top 30 role if this offense is going to be better, especially starting with Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, definitely. Demario Douglas is interesting because he goes on bye this week, so it's like one of those. Do you try to hold him through the bye kind of thing? But I think in deeper leagues he should definitely be rostered. But if you're looking for somebody to start this week, that definitely will not be him. Greg, moving on to the tight end position, what do we got there?
Yeah, only one name. It's got to be Tyler Conklin. He's 11% rostered, second straight game with at least 6 receptions, 60 yards receiving. Found a little bit of groove with Zach Wilson. Outside of Garrett Wilson, it's good to see someone else, getting the ball in this Jets offense. So I think this is real, and he's going to continue to be used in this offense.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I mean, I tend to get scared with Tyler Conklin just purely because the fact that sometimes we end up saying like, hey, it's time to go to Tyler Conklin. And then it's just gone. Yeah. So, definitely like, they have to throw the ball to somebody else because it can't just be Garrett Wilson. I mean, obviously it can,
maybe,
but
yeah.
I could go off on a whole tangent about where else they should throw the ball, like because I don't feel like they throw the ball to Breece Hall nearly enough. But
Absolutely, this man. I mean, I had a receptions prop for him, and I was like, I'll just put that 2 because that's super safe. But he should get 4 or 5, easy. It's hard for him to get up to 3 almost.
It's just crazy to me because you look at that offense and you're like, all right, if your objective is, hey, let's put the ball in our best players' hands, and you look at a lot of offense around the league, right? Like, look at the Chargers, right? Who's their number 2 receiver? Couldn't tell you. It's Austin Eckler, right? 7 targets. That's how the Jets should operate their offense. Again, be a whole nother podcast, a whole nother 45 minutes here, just going in on Nathaniel Hackett. But anyways, thanks for breaking down waivers, Greg. We obviously are really up against it, very much over. So we are going to close this one out. We did get a question today from Chandler Constantine. Trade away Fields, Connor, Mike Evans for Josh Allen and Swift in a 6-point passing touchdown PPR league. I have Burrow at quarterback and have an offer for Adams. I'm assuming that's Devontae Adams. So basically he's flipping Evans to Adams and Burrow to Allen and adding Swift. I like this. And this is some Game of Thrones, chess being played here. I really do like this. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's good. I do really love me some Mike Evans though this year. So it'd be tough to lose him. But I think the upgrade from Burrow to Allen, it'd be worth it.
Yeah, I mean that is the tough part, right? Mike Evans has this astronomical ceiling right now. But I don't know if Devontae Adams will see this year.
No.
Between quarterback and recommitment to the run game and Jacoby Myers' presence, I don't think he'll ever get to that ceiling that Mike Evans is showing us on a somewhat weekly basis.
Yeah.
Well, other than that, I think I like the trade. So but again, Chandler, it's up to you. It's how you feel about it. If you feel on board with this trade, then go ahead and do it. Obviously, understand the upside that you're giving up with it. But if you're hurting that running back, DeAndre Swift, I think is a perfect buy right now as well. So, yeah, man, I do like this. But yeah, man. Other than that, we will close it out. Again, hope that if you need a Monday Night Miracle, that you go out and you get it. Unless, of course, you are going up against Greg and myself, or Greg or myself. Really we would rather continue winning. So until next time, y'all, that'll be Wednesday, 3 p.m., back to our 3 p.m. Eastern time. So we'll catch y'all then. Until next time, y'all, have a good one. We're out of here. Peace.
Yeah.